Imagine stepping into a library, picking up a book, and finding it claims to solve, well, all the major problems of philosophy. Seriously.
It's quite the claim, isn't it?
Right. But then, once you finally get your head around it, it tells you to just throw the book away.
Yeah. That's the mind-bending journey we're really diving into today.
It might just, rewire how you think about, well, everything.
It's certainly a unique starting point. We are going deep into Ludwig Wittgenstein's revolutionary, and let's be honest, famously dense work, the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus.
And our source for this exploration.
We're using the authoritative English translation from the Ludwig Wittgenstein project. It's a meticulous academic piece of work.
Which, ironically...
Exactly. Wittgenstein might tell you to, well, toss it once you fully grasped what he's saying.
Okay, so our mission today is to navigate these intricate, numbered propositions. We want to unpack his, fundamental claims about reality, language, thought.
And pull out those surprising nuggets, the bits that really challenge what you might think philosophy is.
Yeah, this isn't just a summary. We're hoping this gives you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed on a text that, it shapes so much of 20th century thought.
Definitely.
So with that incredible hook, setting our expectations, where does Wittgenstein himself start? Let's get into that radical preface.
Right, the preface. He kicks off by saying this book is, and I quote, not a textbook.
Okay.
And that it will perhaps only be understood by those who have themselves already thought the thoughts which are expressed in it.
Wow, okay. So it's demanding from the get-go. He's almost saying, look, if you haven't wrestled with this stuff already, maybe come back later.
Pretty much. It suggests a kind of dialogue with your own thinking, your own struggles with these ideas.
And he gets straight to the point, doesn't he? His core belief.
Yes, that the problems of philosophy, they arise from a misunderstanding of the logic of our language.
That's huge. It's basically saying philosophers have been tying themselves in knots for centuries, not because the universe is inherently that mysterious, but because they've been misusing their main tool, language itself.
Precisely. It's a massive claim. And it leads him to set a very strict boundary right away.
Which is?
His aim is to draw a limit. But importantly, not to thinking itself, but to the expression of thoughts. He argues, famously, what can be said at all can be said clearly, and whereof one cannot speak thereof, one must be silent.
Wow, that line. It's not just a clever phrase, is it? It's a direct challenge. He's suggesting maybe many of our biggest philosophical questions are just linguistic tangles, things we can't even properly ask.
Exactly. Linguistic confusions we can't legitimately articulate.
He does give a nod to Frege and Bertrand Russell, saying they stimulated his thoughts.
He does, yeah. Important influences.
But then he adds this almost, dismissive comment, saying his work has no claim to novelty in points of detail.
Right. It feels like he's saying, sure, I used some bricks laid by others, but the overall structure, the truth of the whole thing, that's what matters. That's mine.
And this leads to maybe the most audacious claim in the preface.
Oh, yeah. Which one are you thinking of?
His belief that the problems have, in essentials, been finally solved by this very book.
Ah, yes. Think about that. A 20th century philosopher claiming he's essentially finished philosophy. It's staggering.
But then he immediately adds that caveat, right?
He does, and it's crucial. He says, how little has been done when these problems have been solved.
So even if you untangle the language, the deep what's it all about questions, the meaning, the value, that stuff remains untouched.
That seems to be the implication. Solving logical puzzles doesn't solve the riddle of existence itself.
Okay, so if philosophy's core linguistic problems are solved, in his view, where does he go next? He starts building his picture of the world, right, from the ground up.
Exactly. He starts with this incredibly foundational statement. The world is everything that is the case.
Sounds simple. Almost too simple.
Deceptively simple. And he immediately clarifies, crucially, the world is the totality of facts, not of things.
Right. So it's not just the objects, like a chair, a table.
No. It's the fact that the chair is under the table, or the book is on the chair. It's the states of affairs, how things are arranged and interconnected.
It's the relationships, the configuration, not just a pile of stuff.
Exactly. The world is how things stand.
Okay, so a fact is the existence of atomic facts. And an atomic fact is a combination of objects, entities, things. This sounds like he's breaking reality down to, its absolute Lego bricks.
That's a good way to think about it. He posits these objects are simple, they form the very substance of the world, and cannot be compound.
Simple. Cannot be compound. Why is that necessary for him, this absolute simplicity?
Well, if objects could be endlessly broken down if they were complex, then our descriptions, our pictures of reality would never have a fixed foundation. They'd rely on things that themselves rely on other things ad infinitum.
Ah, okay, so the simplicity guarantees a bedrock, something stable for language to hook onto.
Precisely. These simple objects are the unchanging, indivisible points that give reality its definite structure.
And this idea that they're colorless, that's kind of counterintuitive. What does he mean by that?
It means they don't have inherent properties like red or heavy in themselves. Those properties, what he calls material properties, only emerge when these simple objects combine in specific ways in atomic facts.
So the objects themselves are just potential, pure form. This scaffolding, maybe?
Exactly. They determine the form of the world, the possible ways things can be structured, but not the actual content until they combine.
Wow, okay, that's pretty abstract. And then he brings in logical space.
Yes, every object exists in this space of possible atomic facts. To know an object isn't just to identify it, but to grasp all the possible ways it could combine with other objects.
Like knowing all the possible moves a knight can make in chess, not just where it is now.
That's a great analogy. Knowing the object is knowing its potential for combination. He says this possibility of its occurrence is the form of the object.
Got it. And how do these objects connect to form the facts?
He uses this image. Objects hang one in another like the links of a chain. This forms an atomic fact. And the specific definite way they link together is the structure of the atomic fact.
It's very architectural, precise. The connections are just as fundamental as the things being connected.
Absolutely. The structure is paramount.
Okay, so that's the structure of reality he's laying out. How do we represent that reality? This brings us to his famous picture theory, right?
Yes, exactly. A cornerstone of the Tractatus, he asserts. We make to ourselves pictures of facts. And quite simply, a picture is a model of reality.
So it's not just like a painting, it's a logical model.
Precisely. He explains that the elements of the picture, say names or symbols, stand for the objects in reality. And the way these elements are arranged in the picture mirrors the way the objects are arranged in the fact.
So the picture itself is a fact made of symbols or elements, representing another fact out there in the world.
Yes. It has its own structure that corresponds, or is supposed to correspond, to the structure of the reality it depicts.
He uses some really helpful analogies here, doesn't he?
He does. They make it clearer, like a musical score being a picture of the music.
Right. The dots and lines on the page don't sound like music.
No, but their arrangement, their structure, mirrors the arrangement of sounds, pitches, and rhythms in time. It shares a logical structure with the music.
Or phonetic spelling representing spoken words, or hieroglyphs. They all share this underlying logical form with what they represent.
Exactly. That shared logical form is the key.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting, and maybe a bit mind-bending. The distinction between showing and saying.
Ah, yes. This is absolutely crucial. A picture shows its form of representation, that shared logical structure, what it has in common with reality, but it cannot represent its form of representation.
Wait, say that again? It shows its form, but can't represent its form.
Think about it. A map shows you the layout of streets. That's its representational form. But the map itself can't include a picture of the principles of map making that allow it to represent the streets.
Okay, so the very thing that makes it a picture, its ability to picture, can itself be pictured within that picture.
Exactly. And this leads to the huge takeaway. What can be shown cannot be said. You can't put the logical form itself into words or pictures adequately. It's something that is made manifest through the picture or the proposition.
That has massive implications. So how does this relate to truth and falsehood?
Well, a picture depicts reality by representing a possibility of how things could be arranged, an atomic fact. It's true or false based on whether that possibility actually matches reality.
So you have to check it against the world.
Yes. You cannot discover from the picture alone whether it is true or false, which means there is no picture which is a priori true. No picture guarantees its own truth just by existing. It always needs external comparison.
Okay. This naturally leads us to language and even thought itself. How do they fit in?
If propositions are essentially pictures, then the logical picture of the facts is the thought. Our thoughts are the structured representations.
And the totality of true thoughts is a picture of the world. So a correct understanding of the world is having a complete set of true thought pictures.
That's the idea. And he strongly emphasizes that logic isn't optional here. We cannot think anything unlogical, meaning it's impossible to even form a thought or express in language something that truly contradicts logic. Logic isn't a set of rules we choose to follow. It's the very framework that makes thought and language possible at all.
It's like the grammar of reality itself.
In a sense, yes. Propositions, then, are these sensibly perceptible signs, like words on a page or sounds in the air that act as a projection of the possible state of affairs.
And the propositional sign itself, the sentence, is a fact, made of words arranged in a specific way.
Yes. The arrangement of words is a fact that pictures another potential fact.
And what about individual words, like names?
He's very clear here. Only the proposition has sense. Only in the context of a proposition has a name meaning. A name floating alone doesn't really do anything logically.
It needs the structure of the sentence to give it meaning.
Exactly. A proposition says how things are, how objects are configured, not what a thing fundamentally is in isolation.
This really shifts the focus from individual words to the whole sentence structure.
It does. And this leads him to criticize everyday language pretty sharply.
How so?
He says colloquial language disguises the thought. It's full of ambiguities. The same word can function in completely different logical ways, causing confusion.
Like his famous example of the word is.
Exactly. Think about God is existence, Socrates is human, predication, having a property, this man is Socrates, identity. The word is looks the same, but its logical role is totally different in each case.
And philosophers, he thinks, get tripped up by this constantly.
Yes, leading to what he sees as pseudo-problems.
So what's the solution then, if everyday language is the problem?
His solution, or ideal, is a symbolism which excludes them, a language that obeys strict logical grammar of logical syntax, a language where the logical form is transparent, not hidden.
A kind of perfect, unambiguous language.
Or at least a way of analyzing language to reveal its underlying logical structure and eliminate those confusions.
And this ties into his use of Occam's razor, right?
Absolutely. If a sign is not necessary, then it is meaningless. It's a principle for radical simplification. Cut away anything that isn't doing real logical work.
Does this help with things like Russell's paradox? The set of all sets that don't contain themselves?
It does, in Wittgenstein's view. He embraces something called the theory of types, essentially arguing no proposition can say anything about itself.
A proposition can't refer to itself.
Correct. If it could, you get those self-referential loops and paradoxes, like the liar paradox. This statement is false. If it's true, it's false. If it's false, it's true.
So by banning self-reference for propositions, the paradox can't be stated. It dissolves.
It becomes unsayable. Yes, it violates the logical grammar.
And all this leads him to redefine what philosophy itself is.
Radically so. He declares philosophy is not a theory, but an activity.
An activity. Doing what?
The logical clarification of thoughts. Its job is to analyze propositions, especially philosophical ones, and show where language is being misused.
So most traditional philosophy isn't even wrong, it's just
senseless, that's his term. Not false, but meaningless, because it tries to say things that can only be shown, or uses words without clear logical roles.
Wow. So philosophy becomes a kind of linguistic therapy, cleaning up our use of language.
It's a very common interpretation, yes. It's about dissolving problems, not necessarily solving them in the traditional sense.
Okay, that's a huge shift. So if propositions are the key, how does he see the mechanics of meaning working? He talks about truth functions.
Right. He says propositions are truth functions of elementary propositions.
Can you break that down a bit?
Sure. It basically means the truth or falsity of any complex statement depends entirely on the truth or falsity of the simpler elementary propositions it's built from, combined using logical operators like and or not.
So if I know P is true and Q is false, I automatically know P and Q is false and P or Q is true.
Exactly. The truth value is calculated systematically. And this leads him to consider the two extreme cases.
Which are?
Tautologies and contradictions. Tautologies are statements that are always true no matter what, like it's raining or it's not raining.
Right. That covers all possibilities.
And contradictions are always false, like it's raining and it's not raining.
Impossible. Okay.
But here's the fascinating twist. He then says tautology and contradiction are without sense.
Without sense, but one is always true and the other always false. How can they be senseless?
Because they say nothing about the world. They are not pictures of the reality. A tautology is true regardless of what is the case, and a contradiction is false regardless. They don't describe any particular state of affairs.
Huh. So they're logically true or false, but factually empty.
Precisely. Yet he says they are part of the symbolism, comparing them to the role of zero in arithmetic. They show the limits, the boundaries of logic.
Okay, but if they say nothing, what about the logical operators themselves, like or and implies? Do they stand for logical objects?
Wittgenstein says a firm no. There are no such things as logical objects or logical constants.
So or isn't a thing.
No. Its meaning, its function, is shown by how it works within the logical system, how it transforms the truth values of propositions. It's an operation, not an entity. Like a plus sign isn't a number, it's an instruction to do something.
He really pushes for minimalism here. Didn't he think you could derive all logic from just one single operation?
He did. He proposed a single fundamental operation, often written as N, which is basically like a joint negation, saying not this and not that and not for all propositions. He believed you could build all logical connections just by repeatedly applying this one operation.
Wow. Talk about stripping things down.
And he applies this same stripping down approach to the identity sign, the equal sign.
What's wrong with the equal sign?
He argues it's not an essential constituent of logical notation. His reasoning is quite subtle. To say two things are identical is nonsense.
Why?
Because if they are truly identical, they aren't two things, they are just one thing. You'd use the same name.
Okay.
And conversely, to say one thing is identical with itself, like I is A, is to say nothing. It's a tautology, empty of factual content.
So using the identity sign leads to either nonsense or saying nothing.
In his view, yes. And he believed realizing this makes many philosophical problems, like Russell's need for an axiom of infinity, simply disappear because they relied on flawed assumptions about identity.
Okay, this is really reshaping the foundation. So where does this leave logic itself and things like mathematics or scientific laws?
He comes back to it. The propositions of logic are tautologies. They are always true, but say nothing about the world.
They don't describe reality.
No. Logic is not a theory, but a reflection of the world. Logic is transcendental.
Transcendental, meaning?
Meaning it's not part of the world, but more like the condition for the possibility of describing the world. It's the framework, the scaffolding that makes meaningful propositions possible. It's prior to experience, in a way.
And mathematics.
He sees math as a logical method. Mathematical propositions, like 2 + 2 = 4, are equations, and therefore pseudo-propositions.
Pseudo-proposition.
Yes, because they express no thoughts about the world. They don't picture facts. We use them as tools, as rules for transforming one proposition into another. They show us how symbols relate, but don't describe empirical reality.
So math is a powerful tool for calculation and inference, but not a description of how the world is.
That's his take. And he extends this kind of thinking even to the laws of science, like causality.
What does he say about causality?
He argues a law of causality is not a law, but the form of a law.
Form of a law, like the logic idea.
Exactly. Think of a grid overlay on a map. The grid helps you describe locations on the map, but the grid itself isn't part of the landscape depicted. Causality for him is part of the network, our descriptive system, not something inherent in what the network describes.
So saying A causes B is imposing a certain structure on our description, not necessarily finding a real force connecting A and B out there.
That's the implication. It's about how we choose to model sequences of events.
And what about induction? Seeing the sun rise every day and concluding it will rise tomorrow.
Induction. He sees it as the process of assuming the simplest law that can be made to harmonize with our experience.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. Find the simplest pattern.
But here's the punchline. It has no logical foundation, but only a psychological one.
No logical foundation, only psychological.
Yes. Just because something has always happened doesn't logically guarantee it will happen again. His famous example. That the sun will rise tomorrow is an hypothesis. We expect it, we bet on it, but it's not a logical certainty.
Wow. That really pulls the rug out from under scientific certainty, doesn't it?
It certainly challenges our intuitions, he emphasizes. There is only logical necessity, things that must be true because of logic. There is no causal nexus which justifies such an inference from past to future.
So natural laws are useful descriptions, powerful hypotheses even, but not explanations revealing some deep necessary connection in the world.
That's the illusion he wants to dispel. They describe patterns wonderfully, but don't provide the ultimate why in a necessary sense.
Okay, all these insights about the limits of language, logic, science, they seem to be building towards something profound, the final sections of the book, the unsayable.
Yes, this is where it gets perhaps the most philosophical, even mystical. He states, the sense of the world must lie outside the world.
Outside the world, what does that mean?
If value or meaning are just another fact within the world, like the color of a chair, it would be accidental, contingent. It wouldn't have that deep significance we associate with sense or value. So whatever gives the world meaning must transcend the totality of facts.
And this directly impacts ethics, right?
Absolutely. He concludes there can be no ethical propositions. Ethics cannot be expressed in factual statements.
Why not?
Because ethics is transcendental. Like logic, it's not about how the world is, but relates to something beyond the facts. He actually equates ethics and aesthetics here both deal with value, which lies outside the realm of sayable facts.
So you can't state murder is wrong as a factual proposition in the same way you state the sky is blue.
Not in his system. The wrongness isn't a property of the act in the way blueness is a property of the sky. It's something shown, perhaps felt, but not stated as a fact.
He also talks about the will, how our attitude changes things.
Yes, he says good or bad willing can only change the limits of the world, not the facts. The facts remain the same, but your experience, your world shifts, leading to that powerful line, the world of the happy is quite another than that of the unhappy.
That really resonates. Your internal state colors your entire perception of the same set of facts.
It's a profound psychological, perhaps even spiritual insight embedded in this logical treatise.
And he touches on death and eternity too.
He does. Death is not an event of life. Death is not lived through. It's the end of the world for you, the boundary. And eternity isn't endless time, but timelessness. So he lives eternally who lives in the present.
Living fully in the now is a kind of eternity.
That seems to be the idea. And the solution of the riddle of life in space and time lies outside space and time, again, beyond the realm of facts and descriptions.
This brings us to the mystical. What does he mean by that?
It's quite specific. Not how the world is the mystical, but that it is.
So not the details, the facts, the science.
Yeah.
But the sheer brute fact of existence itself, that the universe is here at all.
Exactly. That's the profound, unexplainable mystery. The feeling of the world as a limited whole is the mystical feeling, recognizing the boundaries of the sayable and sensing what lies beyond.
And this leads him to say the riddle just vanishes.
Yes, the riddle does not exist, because if a question can be asked, meaning if it's logically well-formed and uses meaningful signs, then it can be answered by science, by checking facts.
So the deep problems of life that science doesn't touch.
They aren't really problems to be solved by stating facts. The solution of the problem of life is seen in the vanishing of this problem. When you understand the limits of language, you see these aren't questions demanding factual answers.
The inexpressible ethics, value, the mystical, it doesn't need to be said because
it shows itself. It's manifest in life, in experience, in attitude.
So what's the proper job for philosophy then, according to this view?
His final advice is stark. To say nothing except what can be said, i.e. the propositions of natural science.
Stick to the facts.
Right. And when someone else tries to say something metaphysical, the philosopher's job is simply to demonstrate that they've given no meaning to certain signs in their propositions.
Point out the linguistic confusion. Philosophy as clarification again.
Exactly. Which brings us to that unforgettable final image.
The ladder.
The ladder. His own propositions in the Tractatus are elucidatory. They help you understand the limits. But once you've understood,
he must, so to speak, throw away the ladder after he has climbed up on it.
You have to recognize that the propositions of the Tractatus itself, trying to talk about the limits of language from within language, are ultimately
senseless by their own criteria.
Yes. They serve their purpose to get you to see the limits, but now they must be transcended, discarded.
And that leads directly to the famous last line, the mic drop.
The perfect conclusion to the entire project, whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent.
Silence. Stop trying to say the unsayable.
We've really journeyed through a work that tried to, fundamentally redefine philosophy, arguing its deepest problems weren't mysteries, but maybe just Tangles in our words.
Yeah, we saw him painstakingly build this picture of reality from facts and objects, showing us the sharp limits between what we can truly say and what can only be shown.
It's a demanding read, but the clarity he aims for is remarkable.
So, thinking about this, what does it all mean for you listening right now? If our biggest questions about life, meaning, ethics, maybe even maths, are so tangled up in how we use words,
What new insights might you find just by looking really closely at the language you use to frame your own world, your own questions?
right? And if the solution to some problems is realizing they aren't really problems at all, just linguistic knots, what other riddles in your life might just dissolve, maybe, if you got clearer on how you were expressing them?
It's a powerful thought. Consider what else in your own life might be shown to you, revealed perhaps if you were only sometimes to be silent.